Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is Lex Luthor himself, Andrew
Nice.
Cabral.
Hello. I wish I was Lex Luthor. I wish I had his money, at least.
Yeah, I know, right? You could buy all the Blu-rays.
Yeah, not so much his ego or his lust for power and his obsession with Superman. Ironically, a big Superman fan myself, so kind of halfway there. Just a lot of Superman stuff lately. I'm like I said over the last few weeks.
I'm just
watching Smallville. There's a new animated Superman series. There's gonna be a new Superman movie in like 2 years. So
Superman's booming right now. Well, I'm just doing the lowest hanging fruit because you are a bald man. So
indeed.
I could have been like Michael Jordan. I could have been like, I just went for Lex
Luthor.
Growing
Growing up bald, you don't have a lot of heroes, so you got to pick.
You got tons of heroes. What are you talking about? Tons of them.
I guess. I'm just thinking of. I don't know why. Now I'm just thinking of Lex Luthor and Michael Jordan.
The wrestler Goldberg.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah,
he was a badass growing up.
Yeah,
I grew up right in that era. Coincidentally, all over the social media feeds, like on TikTok, tons of wrestling content of just like behind the scenes documentary that people keep uploading in like 20 different parts just to entertain people. But speaking of entertaining people, we are back here for spy number 108, episode 108. It's a bit of a cool down episode. The big news dropped on Monday, which we were fortunate enough to cover in last week's episode. So that will have all of the titles for October, I believe was when they were coming out. And October, so if you haven't listened to that already, listen to that if you want to get the Criterion coverage. This week a little cooler. It's the second to last week of the month, and it's just a couple of slates dropped and some interesting movies that we'll definitely dive into.
Yeah. We always seem to get a lot of times the two eyes together, indicator and imprint.
Yeah, they'll be covered. Some recurring themes with indicators, so that'll be interesting. But first up, I do want to get into a film that I didn't know existed until it was announced this week. So from MVD, their MVD Marquee Collection, which I guess is their more like low key, like indie stuff, I guess. But anywho, usual particular stuff is a Taylor Sheridan film. Taylor Sheridan, who's responsible for the show Yellowstone and its various spinoffs, Sicario, Wind River, Hell or High Water, Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone. He's involved in those things, whether it be writing the scripts or directing.
So much shit. It's crazy.
He's got a lot of things in the works. He's really propped up over the last few years, and just he doesn't stop with terms of productions or stuff. He seems to have every like TV show idea that he wants. He gets out there, and every movie and series that he wants, he gets out there. So he's mostly known as a writer. That's where I found was introduced to his work with Sicario, and Sicario was directed by Denis Villeneuve. Just a fantastic film.
Hell or High Water was the other one.
That was the one I think he wrote and directed that one. And that was like my favorite movie of 2016.
I think he just wrote that
one. He did. David Mackenzie is the one who directed it. You're right. And then he did a little directing himself.
Yeah, the directed thing was Wind River for me. I saw Wind River and I was like, oh, that's pretty solid. Yeah, I like this. But before then, his directorial debut in 2011 was Vile. Was Saul before Saul? Or is this after
it's Saul? Not before. Saul was 2004, but this is kind of a Saw
rip-off movie, man.
Not rip-off.
Not rip-off, but it's...
What is interesting I find about this movie is that it came out in 2011, which I feel is right towards maybe the tail end of that 2000s torture porn horror subgenre and stuff, and the Hostels and all of the other things we've talked about, Martyrs that we've talked about,
Wolf Creek,
like Wrong Turn and stuff like that. But this is an interesting concept that I kind of wish was done a little bit better, and I thought it would have been a better film. So this is his, like we said, directorial debut. Doesn't really star anyone that I think a lot of people will know of. It's kind of, I think, just young actors, cheap actors at the time.
Yeah.
Do you know who April Matson is? Because
the name sounds familiar.
She was in. You probably do not remember this. There was back when this channel is no longer existing anymore. Back when remember, ABC Family was a channel, cable channel. It's now called Freeform, which I still think is a shitty name for a channel because it doesn't really tell you anything. It's about as bland as you can get. One of their first original shows on ABC Family was this show called Kyle XY.
I've heard of
it. Kyle XY was kind of like this sci-fi show for teenagers, basically, and it was all about this like basically this test tube baby who was grown in a lab, and then all of a sudden the lab explodes and he escapes and he gets adopted by this family and they're trying to figure out his past. He's like a super genius, like powers type of science experiment thing. But anywho, one of the daughters in the adopted family was portrayed by April Matson, and that's how I know who she is. And I will never forgive this ever, but this show ends on one of the biggest cliffhangers I've ever seen. And the show got canceled and it never wrapped up in any way, shape, or form. Damn. So harsh wounds. But back to Vile. Speaking of harsh wounds, speaking of harsh wounds, so Vile, this Blu-ray is coming out in October 24th. So it's one of those movies where a bunch of people get captured and violence ensues. So a bunch of these friends they're driving around, I think going on vacation or something, and they end up picking up this hitchhiker, and this hitchhiker ends up leading them towards her abandoned car. I put that in quotes. And then they end up getting attacked and taken prisoner. And they're in this abandoned house where they're locked inside. They're hooked up to this little machine on the back of their heads that they can't remove. And this little machine basically is hooked up to their brain and indicates how much pain they're in. Like it can tell how much pain you're in. And so the monitor on it starts beeping and beeping and beeping. And then this literally in Saw fashion, this old TV turns on and there's this woman who tells them in order to escape this, you need to get this level of pain up to a certain point. It has to reach from 0% to 100%. So they basically have to torture one another in order to get this pain meter all the way up. And doing so, they cut off, they cut off fingers, they pull fingernails, they burn each other, they beat the heck out of each other, they stab each other. It's one of those things.
Sounds hilarious.
And then of course there's a twist ending and all this kind of stuff. But that's the thing. It's super kind of low budget, all in one place, kind of no-name actors, like I said. The concept is fine. The biggest problem I have with this movie is it looks like it was shot with like a digital what's that called? Jumpy cam? The way Doug Liman shot the Bourne movie, the original Jason Bourne, shaky cam. Yeah. That's what it is. So it's all done in shaky cams. So shots aren't really composed very well. And when you're in like tight quarters, like things are tilted in certain ways and all this kind of stuff. And it's kind of annoying the way the shot composition goes. But I guess it's trying to give you that feel of like, you're in there with them. You're in the moment, one of those kind of voyeur-esque type of point of views. And that's that movie. That's the movie called Vile.
It sounds like
vile things are happening.
Yeah, it sounds like Taylor Sheridan was trying to figure out his voice. And then, a lot of directors they start out in horror. This is something that's probably relatively low budget. It's just where a lot of people start. And from here, I think he ascends to greater things.
He would move on to more, I guess, refined filmmaking and storytelling to a certain point. But the thing is, with his films, that there's always been an edge to them. And you can kind of see that edge being experimented with in this film.
Yeah.
Like his films always have this kind of hard, gruesome, like unfiltering, unflinching edge to them. Like Sicario's very cerebral, Wind River is the same way, very cerebral. So you get that kind of instance in here. So that's Vile, and I think there's some special that actually just deleted scenes in terms of special features.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not anything
and
crazy.
The original artwork on it is a little brutal, You get the brutality. It says no pain, no gain. It's got a wrench holding a tooth as a cover, a slip cover.
Isn't that the same tagline as the movie No Pain? What's the
Pain and Gain?
Pain and Gain? Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But all right. Well, how about some Kino stuff? You want to do some Kino?
Yeah, sure. We'll move over to Kino. We went over a few of their things, but they've got just some more details on a few of their announcements from before, like the train is getting a 2-disc 4K UHD edition, which we talked about before. Now we just got all the specs on it. It's coming out September 26th. If you haven't seen this film or you don't own this film, directed by John Frankenheimer, starring Burt Lancaster, just fantastic movie. I highly recommend it. It's been released a bunch of times on Blu-ray already, at least twice. I know because I have one of them. And I have I think I have the re-release of The Train from Twilight Time. Yeah, Twilight Time put out an edition. It sold out. Then they put out an encore edition, and that's the one I have. But then Kino put it out on Blu-ray in 2021, and now they're putting out in 4K in 2023. So there's literally 4 editions of this movie that you could possibly get your hands on, and that's just in the United States alone. I know in Great Britain it was put out by Arrow Academy back in 2015. So this movie's been easily to find, available at least. So that is The Train with the John Frankenheimer film, and moving on from there, we've got a film that I actually decided to watch for the first time. I've been wanting to watch this movie for many, many years, and I finally did, just for the heck of it. I had the time. And this is another film that's already been announced, and we've already talked about it, but Thunderbolt and Lightfoot from 1974, starring a very young Jeff Bridges and not as young Clint Eastwood, but he is in this movie, and he is the Thunderbolt character, Clint Eastwood is, and the Lightfoot character, I believe, is the Jeff Bridges character. And this is a great film, directed by Michael Cimino, 1974. This was before he did Deer Hunter. This is before he did Heaven's Gate, and then his career kind of fell apart. And then before his later films that he did as well. So if that doesn't intrigue you, this movie is part. It's like part road movie, a road buddy movie, then part heist movie. Like the first half is the road buddy movie, second half is the heist movie. So Clint Eastwood is this guy who apparently many years ago he robbed a bank with a bunch of other people, and the things kind of went awry afterwards. And and like one of his buddies went to prison, and then some other of the people who were involved in this thing died. And then there's people who are after him because they think that Clint Eastwood's character stole the money that they got from this robbery. They robbed a bank, essentially, in like Montana or somewhere. And they think that he has the money. So they're chasing him down years after this. And that's how the movie opens, is Clint Eastwood is a preacher in a church in the middle of nowhere, and then some dude walks in and tries to kill him. And he's got to run away. He just happens to run into the Jeff Bridges character, who just stole a car from a local dealership. They get together, and they just go on this road trip together. And then they end up having to do another heist in the second half of the movie, similar to the one that Clint Eastwood had done years earlier and whatnot. George Kennedy is one of the people pursuing Clint Eastwood in this film. George Kennedy being from one of my favorite movies in Cool Hand Luke, which he won an Oscar for. And he was just a great character actor. He was in all the Naked Gun movies. He passed away a few years ago. I would have loved to have met him. Just in general, that would have been really, really cool. But yeah, George Kennedy is in this as some guy named Red. He's got red hair in the film, and he's chasing Clint Eastwood throughout this whole movie. It's a really good film. But Jeff Bridges is fantastic in this film as like this wisecracking younger character who's just like getting into antics and making Clint Eastwood, who's basically playing the character Clint Eastwood always plays, this old curmudgeon guy.
Oh, really?
And he's trying to make him laugh the whole time. And it's great.
Speaking of Clint Eastwood, I saw a clip recently. I don't know if you've ever seen this clip of Ray Liotta it was in recent years, and they were asking him about like what do they thought was some of the most overrated actors of the time of his time, like 80s, 90s, and he said what they asked him, and he's like, I don't know, Clint Eastwood. And then everybody was like, oh man, what if he's like, I don't care if he knows.
I don't know if Ray Liotta and Clint Eastwood ever worked together. I'd have to look. I mean, Ray Liotta was in so many films, and so is Clint Eastwood. I think Clint Eastwood is finally saying that he's gonna retire. He's in his 90s now, and I think he's either directing his last movie or his last movie's directing and it's going to come out. One of those two. I thought he retired years ago in terms of directing, but I guess that's not the case. Because he's been putting out a movie every couple of years now. He's got about as much directing films as he has acting performance, I think, at this point. Yeah, he directed Richard Jewell, Cry Macho, The Mule were his last couple of films. And then I think he's doing one more. I think it's Juror Number 2. I think that'll be his last film. I think it's in production now.
Last movie, yeah.
I think it's going to be his last movie, which makes sense. He's had a very, very long, storied career, legendary career, according to many. So yeah, it's not a bad way to end a career. But this movie, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, I was very, very surprised because I had heard about it for years and I had just never watched it. I don't know why. I just never got around to it. But this edition is a 2-disc edition, 4K UHD disc, a Blu-ray disc. It's got audio commentaries, and then a featurette with director Michael Cimino. It's coming from a brand new 4K scan of the 35mm original camera negative. So I'm actually glad to add this to the collection because I don't have much Michael Cimino, and Michael Cimino, I think, only directed like 10 movies. He didn't direct a lot. I think after the 70s, his career kind of fell apart a bit. So I got to get more of his stuff. But moving on from there, we have The Ballad of Little Joe. Now, I do not know really anything about this movie other than its cast. It's got Susie Amos, Ian McKellen, Bo Hopkins, Heather Graham, and I have to look this up. Written and directed by Maggie Greenwald. The Ballad of Little Joe. I tried to watch it in time for the show, I just didn't get around to it. I think this was like added later in the week. I love how when I typed in The Ballad of Little Joe, I got The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and I hate how there's not an official Blu-ray of that.
Yeah.
God damn it. God damn it.
I hate it.
But yes, so this movie, according to IMDb, if my IMDb will load properly, after being thrown out of her home, a young woman decides to disguise herself as a man to survive the ruthless Wild West. Sounds interesting.
I feel like I've seen this movie. That plot sounds familiar. Definitely. I feel like something that was maybe on cable that I maybe seen at some point.
Would not be surprised.
Yeah. Definitely that plot definitely sounds familiar. But it's great. It's got some good and interesting cast. You got Ian McKellen, Bob Hopkins, and Heather Graham. Yeah, I mean I really do want to check this one out.
Now I'm just looking at Maggie Greenwald's directorial filmography. Just a lot of television in recent times, but a few feature films early on, and then some TV movies and stuff. But so that sounds interesting. Moving on from there, we've got something that's probably more familiar to people. This was announced earlier today. Is a 4K UHD edition of Uncle Buck from 1989, starring John Candy, Macaulay Culkin, Jean Louise Kelly, Gabby Hoffman, Amy Madigan, Laurie Metcalf. This is a John Hughes classic, in my opinion. Steven, how do you feel about Uncle Buck?
I mean, yeah, it's a sweet movie. We got young Macaulay Culkin in there.
I think his brother may be in there too at some point. Am I thinking of Home Alone? I think he's in Home Alone.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Kieran Culkin's in Home Alone. He plays the cousin who wets the bed. I believe that's Kieran Culkin.
Yeah. But it's it's definitely, I think, one of the, of course it's the it's one where he veers away from the teenager, genre, and it's more of a family comedy type of story. And of course, the great John Candy starring in this, and yeah, I would definitely say it's one of his, I think most, I think prized movies of his career. I think people still really love that movie. I think some of his other works kind of get debated on more now these days.
Yeah, I feel like this one is almost kind of beloved. It's beloved. It's a cable staple.
Yeah.
I feel. It's one that I don't ever hear anyone saying anything negative about it.
Yeah.
Whereas
I mean,
suppose you could go back to the Breakfast Club and you can pick that apart in
yeah, I
terms
was
of
gonna say some of his
stuff.
other ones you can pick apart, like 16 Candles. You can
Even
have
like Ferris
problems with.
Bueller's Day Off, people
Yeah.
go back to and kind of can assess certain aspects of that and whatnot.
This one's not very controversial.
No, because it
It's
seems like and it is dealing with kind of adult existential things. You've got this Uncle
yeah,
Buck character portrayed by John Candy, who, he has a girlfriend, but he's kind of in a non-committal relationship. He doesn't really, I believe if I remember the premise correctly, she wants to marry him. He's very non-committal about it. He doesn't want to settle down and have a family. He's kind of like an Oscar Madison from The Odd Couple, where he just like smokes cigars and stuff like that, kind of a working man.
yeah,
And then he's got to go and take care of his niece and nephew. And he's got to become a responsible adult because he's now responsible for like other people's lives, not his own. And he gets thrust into that situation, which becomes, of course, more comedic and whatnot. Um, yeah, well, I've always loved this movie. I'm glad it's getting a re-release because I know the Uncle Buck Blu-ray has been around for many years. Um, from Universal, I believe, and it's been it was put out during one of those times where Universal was putting out their catalog titles, but weren't really putting in a lot of effort into making them look very good.
yeah,
Yeah, the old Uncle Buck Blu-ray from 2011 has been re-released a number of times, and it's a lackluster release. There's not even any special features on it,
yeah,
and the picture quality has never been highly touted at all. So if anything, this is going to look better. Hopefully we get some special features, which they haven't even announced yet. Unfortunately, John Hughes is no longer with us. John Candy passed away back in the 90s. I mean, Macaulay Culkin is still around. Gabby Hoffman's still around. Laurie Metcalf is still around. Maybe they could get some interviews with them, but or anything really would be nice.
yeah. I mean, Kino usually goes, historian heavy. They'll get people like historians
To
to
do a
do
commentary.
commentaries, and yeah, there'll probably be maybe an appreciation look back. Who
Yeah,
knows?
maybe. I mean, they maybe. I know when John Hughes passed away, they had a whole tribute for John Hughes at like certain award ceremonies. I know Matthew
Yeah,
Broderick really led that. Perhaps they could get an interview with Matthew Broderick. I don't know what he's doing these days.
he was
Um,
just in that No Hard Feelings movie.
oh goodness, yes, he was. He was the father in that film.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, he of course is still definitely acting.
yeah,
Um,
he's still out there doing some stuff.
he's still out there doing some things, but that is it for Kino. That's a
Yeah,
pretty short, slim week. They once again have a sale going on. So for those of you listening to this early enough, I believe their summer sale is going till August 8th. I haven't even looked at it yet, Stephen.
I
So
don't even want to look at it.
I couldn't
It's
even tell you what's in it. My mind has been completely centered and focused on Criterion and that I haven't even looked at other sales. Even though we had like a couple of Prime Day things going on, I didn't really want to dive into that
yeah.
stuff, and most of it wasn't that great of a sales anyway. Um,
I literally haven't even looked at any Criterions yet. I have
yeah,
like less than a week.
I don't even know when it ends. To be honest, I
Probably
want to say
probably.
I want to say the last day of July, 31st.
I don't know if it goes that far. I think maybe we got to the end of this week. Maybe
I gotta go there one
like
more.
by Saturday. I
I
think is the
know
last day.
one false move 4K comes out this Tuesday.
Yeah.
Last week the Bud Bedecker 4K set came out. That's something that's really, really piqued my interest. If I were to get one more thing, that Bud Bedecker set, it's kind of calling me. But that's me going a little aside here. Let's move on
All right.
to where do you want to go? Eureka?
Sure.
Why not?
Do it. Over in Eureka, we got a few releases here. We got 3 different releases. First one's kind of getting a little bit buzz behind it, and that is Pandora's Box from 1929, an oldie. Then from 1973, we got Beach of the War Gods, and from 1994, we get going all around all the decades. From Beijing with Love. And so I know you said you were watching Pandora's Box last night.
Yes, I was watching this the other night. So this is streaming on the Criterion Channel streaming service right now if you want to watch it. I have no idea if it's the transfer that they're going to be using for Eureka, but it looked good, sounded good. The movie is very, very good. It's a silent film from 1929. It's a German silent film from 1929, but it's done in that German expressionism from the 1920s, which of course was a precursor and an influence on film noir. So you get the shadows and the lighting and the black and white cinematography that looks so good. The movie is a little long. It's 133 minutes, so 2 hours and 13 minutes. So for those of you who aren't, used to silent film, a lot of reading. You got to read the title cards and stuff like that. That's maybe a bit of a chore for some. It's interesting the way in which it's done is on screen. The title cards will be in German, and then there will be the subtitles in English underneath. So it's a little bit different than watching like an English language silent film, whereas the title cards will be in English. You're just reading the title cards. Here, it's like German title cards, then the English translation in subtitle underneath. It's just something I had never really thought of before.
Well, we're not
paid attention to.
We're not watching a lot of silent films from other countries as much.
Very true. Very true. I'm used to like Buster Keaton and Chaplin, Harold Lloyd, and stuff like that. And those are very visual, literally visual, like comedic and action and all that kind of stuff. So the story is kind of visually told to us, whereas it is both visual, but there is a story and a plot going on. And it's a plot also told in 8 acts. It's like an 8-act play, really.
Is this a Tarantino movie?
Yeah. I don't know if Tarantino took it from it, but it is playing on this idea of the myth of Pandora, where she opened up this box and unleashed all of the evils upon the world. And because the movie is centered around a character portrayed by Louise Brooks, who was a star of the silent era, and she is this woman who everyone who's caught up in her kind of trajectory or her atmosphere, they're just kind of pulled to her like a tractor beam, like the Death Star, and she kind of lures them to their doom, really. Not their doom so much, but just like negative things seem to happen to people around her, and she seems consciously aware of the effect that she has on people, that they're lured to her, so she plays with that. You know what I mean? She lures people into doing certain things and acting a certain way. This movie's dealing with a lot of pre-code stuff that you couldn't get away with after the Hays Code was announced. For example, the Louise Brooks character is a prostitute, and she's a free spirit, and she is like entrapping like married men and having affairs with them, stuff like that. So there's like scandalous things happening for that time period. And yeah, she is kind of just luring all of these people downward, including herself. Like she's sending herself down this dark road as well, unwillingly, unknowingly, all of those things. So the movie is told in, like I said, an 8-act play, and it's quite a triumph. It's really fantastic. It's directed by G.W. Pabst, who sounds very familiar. I just wanted to look up to see what GW. I know he's a famous German expressionistic director of the time. I just can't. I can't think which stuff that he's worked on. So yeah, George Wilhelm Pabst. I'm thinking of Pabst Blue Ribbon for some reason because of
he created the beer
because of Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
So yeah, G.W. Pabst. He directed many things. Yeah, like The Comedians. He directed. No, there's another movie called High and Low, but it's not the Kurosawa film.
No.
Yeah, he directed a lot of silent era stuff. like an adaptation of Don Quixote from 1933. Jeune Fille et Détresse is another movie here. I don't think I've seen any of his other work, but I'm
sound familiar.
fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Just fascinated by it. Yeah, but this is a fantastic, fantastic film. I highly recommend this to really anyone who's a fan of silent era film. This is kind of a big one, and I don't think it hasn't been available here before in the U.S. and it hasn't been available, I don't think, in the UK either. I think the only place that it's been available has been like Germany, and Italy, and a couple of other countries, and that's it. So this is kind of a big release. I'm curious if we're going to get a release stateside by anyone. I don't know. That just seems to be the case with Eureka releases. They announce something, and then someone else releases it in someplace else. They specifically here, either Arrow or 88 or even Kino, they'll release it here or something like that. So I don't know, but I love the the cover artwork on it. It looks like a painting. It looks really beautiful.
It's Tony Stella.
Oh, there you go. It looked very familiar.
And Kat Ellinger's got an appreciation on here as well.
Oh, so there you go. If that doesn't sell it, I don't know what does.
And Alexander Heller Nicholas.
Double sell.
Imogen Sarah Smith.
Looks like they wrote some stuff for the 60-page booklet that's in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got a new audio commentary, new visual appreciation by Kat Ellinger, like Steven said, 2 visual essays, a 60-page book. Yeah, this is one of their Eureka Deluxe editions.
Oh yeah.
The other 2 films, Beach of the War Gods, from what I've read on it, I didn't get to watch it. First of all, I can't find this damn thing. You can actually, that's a lie. Someone uploaded it in 7 15-minute parts on YouTube. They uploaded the Laserdisc version of it. The letterboxed Laserdisc version. So the movie's in 2:3:5:1 aspect ratio, non-anamorphic. So when you put it up on widescreen on your computer screen, you have bars on every single side of the screen.
How annoying.
It's very abrupt. It was about 7 a.m. this morning and I had it on and I was like, I can't do this right now. I haven't gone to bed yet. I gotta get some sleep. The movie though is intriguing to me because it's a Chinese kind of remake of Seven Samurai.
Okay.
It's done by Golden Harvest. You got me, right?
Yeah.
So in the waning days of the Ming Dynasty, these Japanese marauders, I think they're Japanese pirates, samurais or something. They raid Chinese villages, and then these villagers have to go out and find people to fight for them. That's the plot of Seven Samurai. And apparently a good portion of this movie is just one long climactic action sequence of them fighting back against this samurai army. Sounds awesome to me, to be honest with you.
You know, honestly, I feel like what I want to spend a new mission of mine should be get every version of Seven Samurai movie that was inspired heavily by Seven Samurai from every country, because everybody remakes that movie.
Yeah, I mean that movie's been done so many times. Or the premise of it has been done.
That's what I'm saying. Like every Bug's Life. That's a Seven Samurai movie.
It is. One of the best, in my opinion. I mean, I don't see many people talking about it. Maybe it's just the time has passed, but 13 Assassins.
13 Assassins, great,
from 2010. I think that's the Takashi Miike film. That movie's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing film. And it's essentially a Seven Samurai film. The climactic battle in that film is some of the best action samurai stuff you'll ever see on screen, in my opinion. Just incredible. But yeah, it's been done so many times. Magnificent Seven is the same premise and all that kind of stuff. So it's really intriguing how they just took that premise over and over again and just adapted at different times. But this is the Chinese version of it.
Yeah, I mean it's like the heist movie, It's like,
oh yeah, true.
It's like a premise getting a gang of anti-heroes together for a noble cause is a genre in itself. I mean and the heist genre is kind of the same, but it's for different reasons. They're going to steal something. A bunch of anti-heroes going to steal something. In this case, a bunch of anti-heroes going to save a town of people, or say, like for a noble cause. So yeah, I mean, it's a genre. It's its own little sub genre in a way. That's why it's spawned so many so many variations. But
yeah, it looks like you've got some special features on here. Brand new feature length audio commentary by Asian film expert Frank Zhang, who seems to do this work on every single one of Eureka's releases, as well as there's a new interview with action cinema experts Mike Leader, Arn Venema on the life and career of Jimmy Wang Yu, archival interview with Jimmy Wang Yu. Then there's it's limited slipcase. It's got, I think, a booklet with essays in it as well. Yeah, and then that's coming out October 23rd. Um, uh, Pandora's Box coming out October 30th, and then the last film, which is From Beijing with Love, um, it's a James Bond spoof
I was gonna
film.
say, sounds like James Bondy.
With starring Stephen Chow. It's kind of like, I guess if you had Inspector Clouseau as James Bond, that's kind of the premise of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, martini-swilling butcher and disgraced former spy Ling Ling Chat is dispatched to recover a stolen dinosaur skull from a golden gun-wielding supervillain. It's James Bond. James Bond stuff. Equipped with the latest gadgets, our hero dons his tuxedo and swaggers into a world of danger, beautiful women, and metal-mouthed assassins. With Jaws from Live and Let Die. Sound familiar? Question mark. It does. One of Stephen Chow's funniest films, Eureka Classic, is proud to present From Beijing with Love in its UK debut. Yeah, it's getting a new restoration. I do want to point out that Beach with War Gods getting a new 2K restoration of the original Hong Kong theatrical cut. But yeah, this sounds fun. Just this idea of how many James Bond spoofs have we had? So many.
Yeah, I know, right? That's another one.
Yeah, it's another thing like you were saying.
Collected all the James Bond movies and its spoofs. But this whole slate is great. I think you get a little bit of everything here. Love it. I kind of want all these.
Yeah, these are all like kind of solid and completely diverse slate of movies.
Yeah. All right.
But let's take another jump to someplace else. Let's go to Indicator.
Do it.
Let's go to Indicator. So Indicator, like I said earlier, a familiar name is now upon us once again. We have some more Jean Roland films, and we've got Lips of Blood and Fascination. Yeah, so we've got more of his stuff from the 1970s.
Tell you what, they're killing it with the artwork.
I got to say, the artwork got to sell you on this.
It
Just
is
the
amazing.
The font of Lips of Blood is like blood red, and it's not quite dripping, but it looks like it could drip at any second.
Yeah, it just all looks so just fucking amazing. Like I'm loving these Renoir. I was about to say Renoir. I'm loving the Rollin, all these Rollin releases, and they're all getting their own, single releases, and getting all the 4K love, and they're really putting it all in on Roland. So.
Yeah, they're going a lot of Jean Roland heavy. I don't know how much access they've got to all of his work, but they've got enough to create all of these releases, and these are getting released in both the UK and US. I think in both Blu-ray and 4K UHD formats. So no matter where you are, whether you're in region A or region B, you just want the Blu-rays, you can get them. Yeah. If you want the 4Ks, they're region free, so it doesn't matter which edition you get. I saw Fascination earlier than this past week, because I think I watched it when we had Kat Ellinger on and we were going over the Jean Roland documentary. I wanted to watch a few of his films to get a sense of his work and stuff. And Fascination was one of them.
You were fascinated, right?
I was fascinated by his work, Fascination. But Lips of Blood I had never seen. Lips of Blood is another interesting work of his. I think one of his more well-known, at least one of his more films that I really liked. So this film is one of Jean Roland's best loved films. Lips of Blood finds the master of the Fantastique marshalling all of his obsessions, ruined chateau, remote beaches, abandoned graveyards, mysterious twins, and female vampires.
Yes.
Yes. So when a photograph of a decrepit seaside chateau evokes a childhood vision of an encounter with a mysterious girl, Frederick is compelled to investigate. Soon he uncovers a surreal and erotic netherworld of vampirism from which he might never return. So yes, that's kind of the opening of this film, kind of sets the stage for that, where there's this guy who believes he's having this childhood memory of finding this abandoned castle, chateau, as they say. And there is this woman there, and he just becomes enamored by her, and he leaves, and he says he's going to return, and apparently he never does. And she is trapped there. She can't leave there, but he says he's going to come back for her. And he's like a little kid. He's like a little kid. He's not like an adult or anything. And so after he has this vision, he's like, is it a memory? Is it a dream? Is it a fantasy? What is it? But then he keeps having more visions of meeting this woman, of communicating with this woman. So he tries to hunt down this chateau in this place, and he does. And then he uncovers the mystery behind it all. Of course, in typical genre-long fashion, we've got some vampirism going on.
Oh man,
attractive
really?
vampiric women are involved in this stuff. So you gotta. It's some kind of stuff you've seen before. You see a recurring thing going on with genre-long when it comes to attractive vampiric women.
Well, his movies were low budget, and you just keep the attractive female vampires around so you can do your next movie.
I get it, and he always and he would recast a lot of the same actresses to reprise their vampiric roles. Never reprise, just play other vampires. Yeah. And he does so in this film. And what I really like about his films, and what I'm getting used to, is it's all about atmosphere, really, when it comes to his best work. His best work is all atmosphere and feeling and emotion and stuff like that. Not so much dialogue, not so much plot, because there's a lot of portions of this movie that has no dialogue at all. It's just all visual storytelling, visual filmmaking. And it really shows him flexing his abilities as a filmmaker to give you this fantastic style to the brim. Like, the fog machine's on 11, the fog machine's high, the lighting is mysterious, and the music is booming, and it's setting the scene for all of the unhinged stuff that's going on. This movie came out in 1975. Like we said, it is getting a 4K UHD release, and then a load of special features. Just all new stuff too. All new, like, archival stuff with a bunch of people who were involved in the film, including actors and interviews and all kinds of stuff. And it's coming with I'm assuming a booklet, 80-page book.
There you
with
go.
a new essay in it. And it's a limited edition of 10,000. Wow, that's a lot.
6,000 UHDs. You're not running out of that shit for a while.
Yes, 6,000 UHDs and 4,000 Blu-rays for the UK and US, and it's region free. So that's Lips of Blood. And then we've got Fascination, which came out, I think, a little later in his career. It came out, 1979. This is the movie that I remember also liking a lot as well. And this is the movie where a thief holds up at a remote chateau. There's always a chateau, like a big, expensive, grand house, or an abandoned castle going on in these movies. Once again, vampires show up. So this guy shows up at this chateau, and he tries to take, like, these two beautiful women hostage, but it turns out they're vampires. So in a way, they kind of take him hostage. And then kind of things ensue from there. It's similar stuff going on. I remember this movie being a lot more erotic, a lot more sexual when it came to the two vampiric women and stuff like that in typical genre-long style. But I remember it being, once again, another film, just all atmosphere and all stuff like that. Just to get a better premise from IMDb, a runaway criminal breaks into an eerie chateau, taking its two frightened chambermaids hostage. As night falls, a group of mysterious aristocratic women arrive, and the criminal begins to realize the women are hiding a sinister secret. they're vampires. That's the secret.
Damn.
It's
That's
not
it?
really a big secret. It's not really a big secret. It's not really a spoilerish at all. That seems to be par for the course. Once again, tons of special features, like just tons on here. Just the list goes on and on. 80-page book again with new essays. 10,000 copies available. This thing, I feel like these genre long editions are going to be around for a while.
Yeah,
because there's so many copies of these.
Yeah, I plan to get all these, and I'm almost half like I don't know where if I want to start watching them or not, because I kind of want to wait to see what they put out first, and then gather them and then start down the path. Because I don't want to start in some weird place when maybe they're going to release an earlier one than the ones I already have, and like I kind of want to. I feel like
I know exactly what you mean.
I feel
like someone who's an OCD collector, I kind of feel.
Well, I'm not usually like that, but I feel like for Roland, because I'm really learning about him, I feel like starting from the beginning might be the best thing for me to do with him, is to get him as he grew as a filmmaker, to get into that, how he kind of started to meld that genre. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know when I got the first two releases, and I already ordered the Rape of the Vampire and the other one that they got announced recently. So
yeah, because they're kind of bouncing around in terms of
the time periods.
When they're releasing them, not when, actually, when, but also the ones in which they are releasing.
Yeah,
like one's from 1975, one's from 1979. The first two we got, one was from I think the 70s or 80s. The other one was from the 90s. And also you're seeing on the side when it comes to the numbering that the numbers are like a little separated a bit. We talked a little bit about that. The Night of the Hunted is the other one you were talking about.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that like the numbers are not quite lining up in terms of like, this is 410, this is 411. You're going to have to kind of play a little match puzzle game when you get them, put them on your shelf, depending on how they come out. But I feel like they're just there's so much more genre long to be available, or at least that is going to come out. Hopefully, and you can put a whole genre long collection together with all these releases.
It seems to be heading that way in a way. But that is it for the indicator releases, and now we're finally to the end with the big old Imprint. And
yes,
one of these releases, I think we're both pretty happy that got announced, because it initially was going to come out by Kino, and then it got canceled, and then now it's here in this Imprint release slate. You know what I'm talking about?
Talk about Bug?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was going to get announced. It got announced by Kino earlier this year, and then they canceled it, and then now here it is in this slate. But we of course got some other films. We got 3 other films in this slate. One of the big ones here is The Orphanage, the film from,
I think it's not
2007.
It is from 2007, but it is directed by J.A. Bayona.
Yeah.
And I almost said Fede Alvarez, but that's not the same person.
Nope.
J.A. Bayona. I'm trying to. Did he? Yeah, he directed.
He went on to do he did the Jurassic Park Fallen Kingdom, but his better known movie is with the monster. What is it
called?
Monster
Calls.
A Monster Calls, yeah.
He directed A Monster Calls. Then he directed Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. And then he directed 2 episodes of the Lord of the Rings of Power series from Amazon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I coincidentally I was talking about The Orphanage last week. Was it last week or the week before? Where I was talking about, it was last week when we were talking about The Others and how I have The Others in between The Orphanage and Pandora on my shelf. And then next week, lo and behold, we're getting a Blu-ray of The Orphanage. Not only is it a Blu-ray of The Orphanage, it is one of their like special edition top loading, hard box sets of The Orphanage. Did you notice that, Stephen?
I did notice that, and it's because it also comes with the second disc that is all features.
All special features, yeah.
Yeah. So
we're getting a new audio commentary, 2 new visual essays, interview with Bayona and Guillermo del Toro, because I think del Toro produced the film. And then the second disc, like you said, Steven, it's all features and featurettes and stuff. So yeah, this is a nice release with a booklet as well. I'm glad I never upgraded to the Blu-ray. now I can get this.
I'm so glad I never upgraded. I wait to the last.
Sometimes
you just hold off.
Sometimes my indifference does pay off, I guess.
Yeah.
But we do have more stuff here than The Orphanage.
Yeah. The next one here we'll talk about is a movie called Wind Chill.
Yes.
Starring Emily Blunt. One of them early Emily Blunt movies, and we recently, what was the one we got? Summer of Love. That was in a couple slates ago from Imprint. It was movie by Polish director.
Oh yeah, Paul Polakowski. I actually have it right here. People can't see it on the screen.
Yeah.
But I've got it right here next to me. And yeah, it's The Summer of Love with Natalie Press, Emily Blunt, Patty Considine, and yeah, this film was from 2004, so it's even earlier than this film. And I think this was, right after she was in The Devil Wears Prada, because I think The Devil Wears Prada came out in 2006, if memory serves. So this was earlier on in her career, and I did get to see this film as well. I've seen The Orphanage too, but I feel like I don't want to explain the plot of that movie at all. And I think people, because there's a mystery in that film, and I really want people to discover that mystery going on in there, because there's twists and turns and all this kind of stuff. All you have to know is that I think it's a very solid horror film. It's not even quite a horror film. It's playing in the same realm as Del Toro plays with horror. And Del Toro plays with horror as very like gothic, not only gothic, but like atmosphere and stuff like that. It reminds me a lot more of like The Devil's Backbone than like something that's like a zombie film or anything like that, or that's gory or anything like that. But yes, this film starring Emily Blunt, called Wind Chill, is an interesting film. Not great, but I like it conceptually. So, two college students, Emily Blunt and this other character, portrayed by Ashton Holmes. Her name in the film, her character name is Girl, and this guy's character's name is Guy. So it's not like a lot of things going on here. Two college students share a ride home for the holidays, but when they break down on a deserted stretch of road, they are preyed upon by the ghosts of people who have died there. That's the premise of the film. So it's interesting how you're kind of slowly discovering the mystery of these ghosts and why they're there and what happened in the past. It's rather straightforward in that regard. I think Emily Blunt is fantastic in the movie. She's kind of the highlight of it, but the rest of the movie is rather straightforward.
It's like a shitty. Okay, the movie's not shitty, but it is like a shitty version of like a Supernatural episode.
I'm pretty sure they've had Supernatural episodes very similar to it.
Yes, yeah,
very, if not identical.
Yeah,
if not identical.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm thinking Supernatural episodes in my head right now, and
I'm like, yeah,
they've done it.
They did it.
That show went on for like 15 seasons. They definitely did it. But initially, when I heard the premise and I heard Wind Chill and I heard that it's wintertime and they're stuck in the snow, I was thinking of the movie Frozen, the one done by Adam Green, when there's these people stuck in a ski lift. Yeah, great film. In my opinion, good film, solid. I thought the movie scenario.
Yeah, I thought the movie was going to be more like that, like a survival movie.
It's like that, but then there's the supernatural twist of ghosts,
and then the supernatural thing comes into play, and you're like, what?
And
the fuck?
The supernatural thing becomes the plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not about survival anymore. It's more about like there's
like,
ghost shit happening. How do we get away from these ghosts? Yeah. I ain't afraid of no ghosts, you know.
Oh, Jesus.
Shit like that. But that's the premise of Wind Chill. But there's more stuff here. Bug is the next one.
Yeah, we've talked about
Bug.
We talked about it back when the Kino announcement happened, and then of course it got unannounced.
Yeah, directed by Friedkin, William Friedkin, came out in 2006. Once again, the 2000s are propping up, and Michael Shannon's in the film. Harry Connick Jr., Ashley Judd. It's a movie where people basically go crazy at a motel. That's what you need to know about it. It's pretty solid, underrated in my opinion.
It's underrated, definitely. Next though, more horror. Of course, this is the October release, so it makes sense. Skeleton Key, Kate Hudson.
I wanted to ask you, Stephen, did you ever see this movie?
I know I saw it. I know I saw this movie back in the day. I don't really remember it.
I remember seeing trailers for it on TV or at the movie theater. I remember seeing ads for it in places in 2005 because back in the 2000s, I went to the movies all the time.
I was working at the movie theater when this came out, so I know I saw it.
You must have seen at least a poster.
Well, no, I saw at that time. This was like my junior year in high school. I was working at the movie theater. I saw this movie. I saw everything that came through the movie theater. Midnight shows for just employees.
Nice.
That was the best. That was them were the good old days.
That's the perks of the job. Perks of the job.
And we watched everything. So I saw this movie. It's just one of the movies that kind of was forgettable.
It's kind of it's a 2000s horror film that's a bit, I wouldn't say forgettable. It's just it happened, like it's there. Like you've heard about it, you may know about it. It stars Kate Hudson, that's probably why you know about it, but it's a movie that feels very much like a 2000s horror film. I don't even know how to explain
the only thing it's got going for it is I don't think it was a remake of a Japanese movie.
I don't think it was either. So speaking of plot of the movie, so Kate Hudson is a hospice worker in like New Orleans, Louisiana, and she decides to quit her job after like one of her patients or one of the people she's taking care of passes away, and she gets a job at this really sketchy old plantation in the middle of the bayou. Like you roll up to this place, you know how many times I yelled that out while watching this movie?
I know, right?
So many damn times, so many times.
Oh, when I was just a little boy.
Yeah, that's some Creedence Clearwater Revival for you young people at home. They're the band who every time there's a movie set in Vietnam, they immediately use one of their songs in the trailer every single time, or in the movie, or both. But yeah, she decides to go and get a job at a place that you can tell's got some bad history behind it, and lo and behold, it does. It's creepy from the start. She's here to take care of a man who's dying, portrayed by John Hurt. The wife is portrayed by Gina Rowlands, and she thinks there's just something not right about this. Like she thinks that the John Hurt character is signaling to her or trying to communicate to her that something is up, something's not right, and she keeps digging and digging and trying to figure out what's going on. She finds out what's going on, and there's a whole magical hoodoo stuff going on in this film. Gina Rowlands is I think really good in the movie. Peter Sarsgaard is in this film as well as the lawyer who actually hired her or had put the ad out for this family and whatnot. He's part of the plot in a way, and just Kate Hudson trying to figure things out. Figure out this mystery about what's actually going on here. You get a whole backstory of the plantation and things like that. It's fine. I think it's an enjoyable 2000s horror film in my opinion. But moving on from there, we've got some older films in The Mad Room and Night of the Eagle.
The Night of the Eagle is the one I want to know about because that looked good.
Yes, I did get to see Night of the Eagle. So it's actually a really interesting, weird British film going on here. There is this professor who works at this college and his wife and his colleagues and stuff like that. And this professor finds that he and his wife went on like some trip. I forget to where. It may have been New Orleans. It may have been Haiti. It may have been someplace. Anywho, apparently she's been practicing some form of witchcraft for the last couple of years, unbeknownst to him, and he ends up finding all of her like witchcrafty type stuff like in a drawer or in their bedroom or something like that, and he starts freaking out about it, and he's like, what are you doing, why are you doing this? And basically he comes to the conclusion, get rid of all this stuff. And she's trying to tell him, I shouldn't do this, I'm doing it for she doesn't quite tell him why she's doing it. She probably should have, but anywho, he ends up having her get rid of all that stuff, and lo and behold, she was actually using it to protect him against the people around him who are also practicing witchcraft.
Oh no.
And so things kind of get a little crazy after that. Like bad things just start happening to him because all of his protections, magical protections, are gone. Um, and then the movie kind of shifts focus to like what's going on with him. Then shifts focus to the people around him and the stuff they're getting into pertaining to him. I thought it was a really good kind of uh, sci-fi film of the 1960s, dealing with witchcraft, dealing with kind of craziness around you, evil people around you, all that kind of stuff. I rather enjoyed it a lot, actually. I thought it was actually a rather good, surprising film. I didn't know what was going to happen next in the film, so it kept me guessing the whole time, which is always great to see in a film like this. But yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice discovery. I had never heard of the
Cool.
film until right now. The Night of the Eagle is not the best name. It really doesn't tell you anything about the movie at all. It doesn't describe the movie at all. As there's an eagle statue thing that goes on in the movie, but it's not really a big premise of the movie. There's an alternate title to the film. I forgot what it's called. Oh, I
Burn
no,
Witch Burn?
yes, Burn Witch Burn, which is also not quite a great title, and as well.
I just didn't get the title right for this movie. What would
I
you have
know.
called it? What would you have called it? Come on, man.
I don't know. Magic is, magic does. I have no idea.
Oh, what the fuck? That's
Yeah, that was
terrible.
weak. Bewitched.
Magic.
They called it
Oh,
Bewitched. It came out before Bewitched, I think, or maybe around the same time as Bewitched.
huh. Yeah. How
Thinking
about
of the
call
show.
it? How about call? I haven't even seen the movie, but based off your description, how about we call it Wicked?
Nice.
Just kidding. Just
like
kidding.
Or Wicked
Somebody
Witch or
might
Wicked
get
Woman,
upset if we name that movie that.
I guess. But the other movie, unfortunately, The Mad Room, is probably the weakest film of all of these that I saw. To the point where I found myself just incredibly bored by the film, really,
Mm,
which is unfortunate because on paper I found it very interesting. The whole time I was watching it, I'm like, "Is this a TV?" This felt like a TV movie just because because the quality of it was just so like minuscule to me. So
yeah.
the film stars Stella Stevens and Shelley Winters. So what happens is Stella Stevens is marrying Shelley Winters' son, or is going to marry Shelley Winters' son, and I think they both live at like Shelley Winters' once again large family home place. But it turns out that Stella Stevens' character has a brother and sister who've been in a mental institution since they were children, because apparently either one of them or both of them killed their parents, like butchered
Mm,
them to death with like a knife or with like knives or something. But apparently they've never been able to figure out which one of them did it or if it was both of them that did it. All they know is that it happened. So they've been in a mental institution this whole time, but it turns out the brother is turning 18 and he's no longer can be at this mental institution because I guess he's aging out or whatever. And the doctor felt that he doesn't need to be put in an adult mental institution. Um, so he and the younger sister, who is 16, need to be released to the Stella Stevens character, who to take care of them, to watch over them, and she brings them back to this home where Shelley Winters is living, and I guess the person that she's marrying goes off in some business trip or nonsense or whatever, and she's got to take care of these two kids now, who have this traumatic past. They don't really get into like why these children are they rehabilitated completely or anything like that. They just kind of let them out, and then of course they're let out. A murder happens. Did they do it? Who did it? Were they the ones who really murdered the parents when they were kids, or was it somebody else? Were they blamed for it? All of these questions kind of ensue. The problem is I just was so that the film shifts focus from these two children to what's going on with Stella Stevens, and I just found her character and just her situation incredibly uninteresting, and it kind of slowed the movie down. I was more interested in what would be going on with these two potentially murderous children. Like, will they be slipping back into their old ways? Will they not? The film doesn't really delve into those more kind of mental health situation things going on, like you would see in like a Psycho or even the Psycho sequels that we talked about, where you saw Norman Bates slowly slip back into his old ways just because of his mental conditions and whatnot. This film doesn't delve into any of that interesting stuff. It really doesn't. Just stays more surface level. So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it. The whole concept of the mad room is that the younger sister in the film needs a mad room, what she calls a mad room, if she's ever feeling these kind of mental breakdown or mental overwhelming thoughts. She needs a room to calm down in, and apparently they call it the mad room. That's the whole thing with the title of the movie.
All right, I guess it's a better title than
an actual movie.
Not a good movie though. Not as good. All right, well, that sucks that there's maybe a lesser movie in this slate, but otherwise, pretty solid, decent slate here. I think there's some fun stuff here, some stuff we weren't aware of before. Awesome. I think that's it for the episode. A slightly shorter episode as we warned you at the beginning. Not a ton of stuff, but
no, not a ton of stuff, but it's a robust slate in many of its aspects. I do want to see the Orphanage. I want to go over. They're just getting a new 2K scan. Windchill's getting a 2K scan. A Bug, unfortunately, I think is just a 1080p high definition on Blu-ray. There is a new commentary with that. We didn't really go over any of the special features. That's why I'm going over them. And what's the next one? Skeleton Key is getting a new 2K scan. I know Skeleton Key definitely has a Blu-ray. Like, I'm pretty sure it does. Because I used to see it all the time. It has a Blu-ray that came out in 2010 over here. And in the UK as well. So it's had a much it was a universal Blu-ray. It needed a much necessary upgrade, I think, in my opinion. The film is rather visual in terms of its palette and stuff like that. But the Mad Room doesn't really have anything in the way of special features yet. Night of the Eagle has some audio, has 2 audio commentaries. That's kind of cool, and a couple other new special features as well. And getting a new 2K scan. So I wanted to go over all that before we bounced out of here.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on some of these and talk about them. So, all right. Well, that's it for Spy Number 108. Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
You can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings, or at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it's our Instagram or our Twitter. You can find me also on Letterboxd at Stephen Billings. You can find the audio for the podcast at Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.